Hello everybody, welcome back to the second video in this tutorial about taking Celtic embroidery to a new level. This is the design that we created in the first video, and we're going to create this design here. I'm just going to remove the grid and remove the commands so we can see it just a little bit closer up. And let's scroll in a little bit. As you can see, I've placed the elements around this beautiful design from Celtic Dreams. This was the first Celtic embroidery I ever created, and it took me a long time to create this knotwork design. I'm very fond of it and I spent hours working on it. So as you can imagine, it means a lot to me. Rather than do what we did in the first video by just placing small designs around it, I'm going to do something just a little bit more complex this time. And I decided that I would use elements, as you can see here, from the Rachel Catherine bridal collection. But I'm not using actual designs. I've opened lots of designs up within the first set of Rachel Catherine bridal, and I've removed all the elements that I want to use. Now, some of the elements in this collection are too big, in my opinion, for this sort of work. This is the biggest one that I use. There is a larger flower and there are hearts and scrolls, but I've not used those. I've used the smaller ones. I pull them out as we did in our first video, and here you see them with the design, which is Celtic Embroidery, Celtic Dreams 3, and it's number 8. And these are the elements that I've pulled out that we're going to use to decorate this. Now we're going to start at the top, and I'm not going to put an element in and then mirror it over the other side. I'm going to actually work down one side, then select them all and paste them on the other side, and then flip them horizontally so that they're mirror imaged. And I'm going to start at the top with this one here. And that fits nicely in this area here. And then I'm going to take this one. Now I'm working here in Husqvarna Premier 2 in the Embroidery Ultra module. As I explained in my previous video, the design you can, unlike in Modify where nothing is grouped together and it's very difficult to move things around, in this part of the embroidery software you can have groups of stitches, and here we have these elements have been grouped together, and so I can select them and pull them into the places that I want them to be. The lovely thing about this design is that there are enough gaps in it that we can pop little small designs inside some of the holes, as I've just done there. Now this one here, I think that needs, I can't remember whether I mentioned this in the previous video, but obviously when you're dealing with these sort of designs, making creations like this, it's not always, I'm going to rotate that one by 45 degrees, whoops, so that I can move it up and it grabs round the side of that Celtic work. Now when you've used the elements once and you need to use them again, you'll have to copy and paste them. And I'm going to put this one, it'll behave itself under here. I'm going to rotate that slightly, and again I want that's it. Now every time I make a combination like this, I'm going to zoom in. I'm not quite happy with the positioning of that. Obviously you can position them all and then fine tune it afterwards. Now when you've got a big design here and you want to pull up something that's behind it, I just use the arrow buttons here. I'm going for this green one here. I'm going to copy and paste it, and I expect ideally I should have copied and pasted them and left them all down the bottom here. Previous design. I'm going for that little flower. Copy, paste. And that fits also in there. I think my voice is just a tiny bit better today, but I do apologise that it's a bit gravelly. And you can see how I'm building these around the Celtic embroidery. Now when you want to not do a 45, then you've got to grab this circle here. And you can see how I'm building that up around. And if you can bear with me, I'm going to quickly finish what I was. Oops, that's it. I'll put that one down here. Now the leaves, I'm going to leave that one down here. I should have done that in the first place. I'm going to flip that one vertically, and let's zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to grab this and just move it round slightly and then take it over here. Now obviously when I actually colour sort, I must make sure that this stitches out first before this very pale greeny gold one stitches out. Right, I'm just going to take that one, and that one fits nicely in there. I think we'll just flip it. It's important when you're selecting a lot of designs like this to do what I did there. Don't always paste them on in exactly the same position. A little bit of rotation and flipping over them gives them just a little bit more detail. And I'm going to go back to that flower. There we are, that's the one. And what I'm going to do is I know I need it again. Now where did that one go? Probably messed it up now. I'm going to stick that one in there. Hopefully you get the way I'm doing this now. I'm building them up nicely around the Celtic embroidery. Let's that one. And every time you do something like this, you'll find, I mean, what I'm actually creating here is not the same as the design that you will find in this tutorial. I've done it just a little bit differently this time. Take that down and let's use that one. And I like to put a flower. Let's just zoom in. I like to put a flower over the edge, the end of that little spray of leaves. Right. Just checking. Now that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring this one down, and I'm going to bring that one down, and I'm going to take this one up and flip it, and once more put it like that. Put that one there, flip that one. There we are. Right, I can get rid of that one. I'm not going to use that again. And delete that one. And the only thing I have to do now is select that one and paste it, and I'm going to put this one down the bottom. Now rather than just place it there, that to me is not ideal. I like to have the petals sitting each side nicely like that. Right, so that is one side of our design. Now, what I want to do is select all the designs on this side. Now, there's obviously several ways of doing that, but I'm going to do it in a rather weird way, you may think, but I'm going to copy that design again, and I'm going to delete it. Then I can get a box select, and I can select everything apart from this flower at the bottom. All right. Then I combine them. I combine the selected. I copy. No, that was the wrong thing to do. You see my mistake there? I've lost the design at the bottom. So let's go back, copy it. No, I'm copying the wrong bit now. Copy that, then delete it. Then do a box select of everything apart from the flower at the bottom. Combine selected. Then paste that back on. And when you go to the layout order, you move it to the back so that these designs automatically are going to be stitched out after this. Then you paste. No, I've done it wrong again. Oh, dearie me. Going to delete it. Then I'm going to box select these, and I'm going to then after I've deleted it, but it's still sitting on the clipboard, I'm going to select these, and they are combined. They are one design like that. And you would get there in the end. Pop it back on, and now I can just select that side, paste it on, click on this arrow here, and it will mirror image it, and I can take it over to the other side. Now, when I want to make sure that they are all in the same place, I can scroll in and check the alignment. Now, I'm looking at these two green flowers here and making sure they're each side of the Celtic embroidery, but you will notice that the tip of the Celtic embroidery is not sitting on the centre line, so that isn't the best way to do it. I would look at the tip of this petal here, and I would put it in the same place that side. That is one of your options. I'm going to put that one there, and I'm going to grab this one and put it there. And I've noticed I've not selected the embroidery and moved it to the back so that it stitches out first. This area here is very important, and although it may not be sitting on the grid properly aligned, I think it's very important that these two flowers are in the same place. Now remember, when you just want to do slight alignments, use the nudge arrows up and down and to the side. Let's check another part on the grid. This side we see this flower sitting on the Celtic embroidery with this one in the middle, and it almost looks the same on that side. It will never be perfect, but the alignment isn't too bad. Let's scroll down and look at some of the other ones. Yeah, that's not too bad. Right, now the next thing to make sure that you do is to zoom out and select all and combine all. All right, and we have 101 colour changes, which is not ideal at all. Let's go to modify. Design must be selected. All right, let's modify it. Let's go to there. I can never find where it is to colour sort in this. Oh, here it is. Right, and that's taking it down to 11. Now if you remember, when we created it, we had these leaves were in front of this flower, which is not ideal. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy it onto my board, and I'm going to go over to the modify unit, and I'm going to open a new page, or a new file should I say. Go to the home and paste it. Let's take out the grid and all the commands. We've got 38,000 stitches and 11 colour changes. What we're going to do is we're going to move through them. There's the underlay for the Celtic Dreams knotwork, and there's the main satin. We've got that white there. Right, so it's these. There we have our leaves, and if you remember, this one is sitting in the wrong place here. So what I'm going to do, select them all. I'm going to select that one and I'm going to move it down. Let's zoom in so we can see that whether we're doing it. No, it needs to come down again. There we are. See, it popped behind the green flower. Now obviously if you start fiddling around with the stitch out, I'm trying to think what the word is, if you start moving the sequence, that was it, around, you've got to make sure that you haven't messed it up anywhere else in the design. So zoom in, start at the top, and just check. What we're checking is the overlaps of the stitches, and that nothing is in the wrong place. On particularly this one, I didn't go in and fine tune it. I'm not that happy. I would not normally leave leaves with a gap like this. I'd have moved it over so it was the end of the little spray of leaves was under the flower. But that all looks fine, and we've got 11 changes on that. So that's great. Let's come out, and that is our next design. You can see how I created, and it is a little bit different. It's very difficult to do this sort of creation exactly as you've done it before. I would say that there are a few. It's not perfect, but I wanted to show you how I do it, and I hope that's been useful. I would say that these should have been split a little bit more, and this should have been moved over so that the gap between this and that one was the same each side. I hope you found that useful and that you can do something similar in your particular embroidery software. Obviously, just before I go, I would like to say that I don't usually create my designs in the Husqvarna Premier 2 software. I create them in Wilcom software. It's called Embroidery Suite and it's commercial. It has a lot more, it allows me to align and do a lot more. But I wasn't going to show you how I create in that because not many of you would have that embroidery software. So it would be a little bit, it would just be frustrating for you to see what I'm able to do and that you can't do in yours. So I hope that's helpful, and I hope my voice doesn't sound too dreadful, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you're able to create something wonderful too. Bye for now.